Ladies and gentlemen, we live in extraordinarily dark times, and we are called by God to stand out as the light and make a difference. Let's get to it. How many times have you guys sat down to listen to a man who stands behind the pulpit and calls himself a pastor that will actually say things like, well, I'm just called to preach the gospel, and that's all I'm supposed to do. And then they continue to pontificate about how bad the world is, and you should just expect the world to be as bad as it is because you're dealing with a bunch of unsaved people. And then what begins to happen is it seems like it sort of begins to turn into a session where they seek to justify why it's okay to allow evil to take place in front of you without any type of consequence. And the worst part about this is things get darker and darker and darker and darker while evil begins to compound upon evil upon evil upon evil upon evil. And the reality of it is, as this continues on, these men continue to justify their behavior and actually think it's okay to stand as a minister of the gospel without defending precious human life, for example. Perhaps one of the most vivid examples of this that existed in recent history was when men like Bonhoeffer actually were put down, were beat, were literally killed because they chose to take a stand over the precious life that was being lost in Nazi Germany. You think about this, these same men were saying, all I'm doing is preaching the gospel, and in many cases, they actually turned the volume up, literally encouraged people in their churches to sing louder, while men and women were crying for their lives, being loaded into these carts, literally getting taken away to their deaths to concentration camps. Folks, that was the reality of what's going on. And today we are living in a world that is watching this type of thing happen to precious little children. Little babies are being killed every day to the tune of as many as 3,000 a day, 50% of which are little black babies for all the social justice warriors out there. And the reality of it is pastors are staying silent. They're basically saying, all I care about is preaching the gospel, and it doesn't seem as though they really care about the well-being and the welfare of the children that are actually dying, literally at the expense of your lack of willingness to move forward. This is exactly what the culture was like in biblical times when there were men who were serving Jeroboam, the king of the northern kingdom, who used them as political tools to basically cause the people to worship as sort of a false religion through their actions while people were dying left and right in the name of convenience, in the name of, dare I say, the worship of God. That is the kind of wickedness we are seeing today on a way higher level. Here's the reality of everything that I'm saying. The Bible tells us in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 that we, yes, the body of Christ, the church, we are the gatekeepers. We are the ones who are holding back. We're the restraining force that is holding back evil from coming into fruition. Heck, we're the ones that are keeping the final Antichrist from coming into fruition, from even being revealed to the world. That's what 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 tells us. And what's even more interesting about all of that centers around the fact that we are not living up to that call. The body of Christ is not living up to that call. If you are watching this, the day that it's being released, it is Sunday morning, and what we are going to talk about today is that very issue. My dear friend, Seth Gruber is going to be here for our church services. We are only going to be streaming our church services, by the way, on Rumble. So I want to encourage you guys to go to those church services just for today. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. It's going to completely bless you and blow you away, because what you're going to get out of it is going to be extraordinarily life-changing. And here's the reality of everything that we're watching right now. The world needs Jesus. But how are we going to give the world Jesus if we do not stand up? If we do not listen to the same Spirit that rose Jesus Christ from the dead, how in the world is the world going to see Jesus? It'll never happen. It's time to live obediently to the call that God has placed upon our life. It's time to do what God has asked us to do. No more, folks. Take a stand for righteousness. Speak up. Get involved. No longer shall we be spectators. No longer shall we sit on the sidelines and allow this nonsense to continue. We must stand up for righteousness. Too much is at stake. And if you are going to a church where there's a pastor that refuses to do that, walk away. Vote with your feet. Demonstrate that their job as a pastor is being abandoned, because God has given us a greater call as the body of Christ, and it's to stand up for righteousness. So let's come out swinging, you guys. God bless you.